Welcome back, everybody. This is Amanda Ridout, health coach, and here we are once again with pharmacist Ben Fuchs, nutritionist, cosmetic chemist. And how are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. It's been a long time. I think we have 2 weeks. It's been 3 weeks or so.
No, 2 weeks, but it's been a long 2 weeks. I've missed our little interviews. So
Same with me.
Yeah,
Same with
me too.
Okay, good.
Well, today I wanted to ask you something. There's a big kick going on right now, and it's all about essential oils.
Right.
I guess my first question to you would be, is this just a health fad, or is
Are you skeptical? You look like you're a little skeptical.
I'm actually not. I'm a big oil user.
Okay.
And I've been using oils for years, even before it got really big.
Okay.
So, but
Do you want me to clarify some misunderstandings and make like the pharmacist's point of view? Because they have a certain okay, good. There's a certain pharmaceutical nature that these things have.
Yeah.
So a couple things come to mind with essential oils. First of all, I love essential oils. Full disclosure, I'm a fan of essential oils, but I love them because I love the smell.
Yeah.
I don't so much love them for their medicinal value. Not that to say that they don't have a medicinal value. I tend to work more with nutrition, and essential oils are not nutritional, they're medicinal. So that's a distinction.
That's
now,
huge.
So how do you make that distinction? But sometimes it's, there's a certain point where nutritional can become medicinal. Mm-hmm. Okay, but they're still not nutritional in the sense that that there's deficiency states. These things are abundant in nature, and we get lots of them. But by taking concentrated doses in an essential oil, you may be able to achieve some medicinal properties. For example, and by the way, even before I give you those examples, there's another thing that your question implies that we need to examine, or another belief that we need to examine. And that is the idea that if something doesn't have a material nature, it can't be real. So that we see something like homeopathy, which really works on liquids that contain millionths of a part of an active material, right?
Yep.
Dilutions, they call them. They're millions of a part, and we go, oh, hocus pocus, it can't be real, okay? Or we say essential oils. They have these seemingly trivial, tiny little amounts of various compounds. What's it going to really do? It can't be real. We don't respect the energetics of things because we're very materially oriented. We have a world that's constructed to encourage us to be materially oriented. But we know there's Carillion photography. You know what Carillion photography is?
I don't know what that is.
So they take a picture of you and you have an aura. You ever seen those aura?
Okay, yeah.
Right? That's real. Carillion photography is not made up. You have energy coming off of you, and they can take pictures of it. And there's all kinds of frequencies emanating off of you, and there's no reason to believe that by modulating frequencies, by changing frequencies via the introduction of things, the introduction of just pure energy, like a homeopathic preparation perhaps, or an essential oil, there's no reason to believe that you're not going to be able to affect the energetics of something, simply energy to energy. And we should be, instead of saying, show it to me first and then I'll believe it, we should say that as a hypothesis it's true and then see what happens. And indeed we know homeopathy works. Essential oils can create changes, effective changes. Thought works. There's a placebo effect that has to be taken into account of when they test drugs. How the heck does that work?
Yeah.
So there are ways that you can modulate your body and control your body that are not material. So we have to get over the fact that if something is just an essential oil or homeopathic, that it's immediately quackery.
Right.
It's immediately crack. We got to get over that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that having been said, there's a lot of very powerful things in essential oils. An essential oil is given the name essential because it is what makes oregano oregano. It is what makes sage sage. It is what, in large measure anyway, not 100%, there's other factors, but it's a core of what makes an herb, it gives an herb its signature, its identity. So it's said to be essential. There's other things involved, but these other things tend to be more generic. It's the signature of material or ingredients that are in this oil, this lipid, this fatty fraction, that gives a plant its quality. And all plants make them. All plants make oils that are essential to that species of plant. And these oils get their specific identity, their specific signature, by the various proportions of fundamental compounds, fundamental chemical building blocks. And so we find that bergamot has a signature of fundamental building blocks that give it a quality, that oregano has a signature of fundamental building blocks that give it a quality, etc. You can almost think of these fundamental building blocks as letters, and when you put them together, they spell a word in smell or in chemical, they
Uh-huh.
smell a word, that is bergamot's name. You
Yeah.
follow me?
Yep.
And built in chemistry. So what are these chemicals? Well, they've got tremendous value from a medicinal standpoint. For the most important, the most easily recognized is aromatherapy. Okay? Now we know that the old sense of smell is one of the most primitive senses, and you can transmit a lot of information in a smell molecule. So for example, if you smell mom's apple pie, you're going back to 1982 or whatever it was when you were however old,
Yeah.
just the friggin' smell, correct? So you will get an entire holographic projection of an experience, the day, what you felt like, what your mother looked like, what room you were in, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's from a molecule of smell.
Yeah.
That's a boatload of information that is in essence being transmitted via a molecule of smell. So once you're thinking all those thoughts, well, guess what? You're secreting endorphins. You're activating your parasympathetic neurology. You're creating biochemical changes that are helping you heal, helping you grow, helping lower your heart rate, all from the smell that's reminding you of grandma's apple pie or whatever the heck you happen to be reminding you of.
Right.
Likewise, if you smelled somebody's perfume and you were in an IRS audit, you know, every time you smell that, right? Exactly what I'm saying. The point is, lots of stuff was going to happen from that smell. So it's not a reach to believe that by aromatherapy and by controlling, you know, lavender or oregano, these are fundamental smells. They're not like a whole bunch of, they're not complex smells necessarily, or as complex as they can be. They're one note, if you will.
Right.
And so they can trigger certain, there's no reason to believe that they can't trigger certain biochemical reactions. And there is a lot of anecdotal evidence, there's clinical evidence, there's literature evidence that talks about you smell lavender, you're relaxed, you lower your heart rate. So it's not a reach. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, within these essential oils, you also have dermatological properties, wonderful and not forget, we'll talk about dermatological in a second, but they have other medicinal properties, one of which is antimicrobial. They kill things. They're highly antimicrobial, some of them. Some of them are incredibly, some of them kill things that nothing else kills.
Yeah.
So they have a powerful antiseptic effect. Okay, so they can kill bacteria. If you use enough of them, they can kill good cells too, but they tend to have a higher, good cells have a higher tolerance for them than bad cells. So the dose, there's a nice window where you can dose, where you can kill the bad things but not hurt the good things.
Yeah.
That having been said, you could do some damage with oregano oil. It's cytotoxic. You could burn yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon too. Don't put it on mucous membrane if you know what I'm talking about. You know, anywhere where there's like a sensitive area, don't put it on because it's very, very active stuff. That activity is a measurement of its ability to kill things, to kill germs, for example, and viruses. So it's got tremendous antimicrobial properties. That's above and beyond the aromatherapy. It's got antioxidant properties. The compounds in essential oils are technically called polyphenols. And by the way, I should tell you, essential oils, the oils that are the essential oils are the unsaponifiables. Remember we talked about that. These are where nature has hidden a bounty of medicine, is in the unsaponifiables. The saponifiables, the stuff you can make soap out of, that's fatty, and that's good stuff. There's stuff you could do with it. It's very valuable. But the good, powerful medicines is in the unsaponifiables, the stuff you can't make soap with, and those tend to concentrate in the essential oil. And some of these unsaponifiables are tremendously medicinal and even nutritional. But the concentrations are kind of low, but they're called polyphenols, and they're a type of chemical compound that is really, really helpful, beneficial to health, tremendously beneficial to health, so beneficial to health that they're almost like vitamins. They're almost like essential nutrients. Okay. And it's almost, you know, there's reason to believe that they are essential nutrients, and we just don't call them essential nutrients because when we developed the essential nutrient scale or listing of essential nutrients, we didn't have the ability to detect the small amounts of these compounds. They're located in plants in a very tiny fraction. The essential oil is a very tiny fraction of the plant, like less than 1% of it. And these are elements that are in that tiny fraction. So we didn't have an ability to find these, to detect these until the 1940s, 1950s. By then they already had the essential nutrients all set up. So I think it's possible that today these things can maybe be called essential nutrients. That's how valuable they are. And the reason I say that is because they have unbelievable health benefits, from lowering blood cholesterol to improving circulation to affecting how cells divide and grow, to reducing the immune response in autoimmune disease or an accelerated immunity, to healing the skin. Really valuable medicinal properties that are nutritional / medicinal. Remember we talked about how sometimes nutritional can be medicinal. There's like a fine line where nutrients turn into medicines, and that's where these things are. And they're called polyphenols from a chemistry point of view, but you know them as flavonoids.
Okay.
You know, bioflavonoids. You've heard of these things? Okay. Flavonoid chemistry is an up-and-coming form of chemistry because we're discovering that there's lots of these flavonoids, and they have tremendous medicinal properties, healing properties, all the properties I just talked about internally, and that's why you want to eat your fruits and vegetables, especially what part of the fruit is where the essential oil is?
The skin.
The skin. This is where the good stuff is. Eat your skins. Make teas with your skins.
Okay.
You know, one of the best sun protection products you can make because of the flavonoids and the essential oils in citrus. Citrus is tremendous for essential oils. Make a sun tea. Make a tea where you take orange citrus, peel, you put it in with hot water, and you put green tea. And you make sure you leave it out in the sun, or you let it steep, or you apply some kind of heat, mild heat source, let it sit for 2 weeks in the sun, and all the wonderful essential oils and flavonoids from the citrus are anti-cancer, powerfully anti-cancer. The green tea is anti-cancer. You'll make your own wonderful sun protection beverage. It's made, right? It's delicious too.
Okay.
So the peels, especially citrus peels, the thicker peels tend to be really dense in medicine. In fact, you're going to start to hear a lot, and I'm going to be promoting it a lot actually. Bergamot. You know what bergamot is?
Yeah, I use that right here for thyroid regulation.
Now you're talking about the oil. You're talking about the oil?
No, I'm talking about the oil.
Okay, the oil. Well, the bergamot oil internally is, the literature on that is over the top for the heart and for the circulatory system. Over the top.
Something I learned, I didn't know that bergamot was the fruit that in Mexico, it's the first citric fruit we give our babies, the juice of the bergamot.
Really?
And it wasn't until I got mine for the essential oil and I smelled it and I was like, okay.
You remembered it from when you were a kid?
I know, and I made the juice for my kids when they were growing up.
Did you have bergamot trees and growing in Mexico?
All over the place.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're in paradise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The best bergamot apparently, and I've been diving into bergamot because there's this doctor who wants me to help him with his bergamot. He's got a bergamot supplement, and so he wanted me to start, because I like flavonoids. He knew I like flavonoids, and so we started talking about bergamot, and the flavonoids of bergamot are ridiculous now that I'm studying them internally for the circulatory system. So I'm going to be talking a lot about bergamot. Bergamot is considered one of the super fruits, the super botanicals for essential oils. Or bergamot oil is thought to be a super botanical oil. One of the most important, actually. And I'm not sure if that's marketing, and a lot of companies are getting into bergamot, but certainly the literature is very, very compelling.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, and there's one kind of bergamot that stands out, and that's Caledonia bergamot, apparently, in Italy. Somewhere in Italy, the Caledonia province, or I don't know that part. I got to look into that.
But anyway, it be because of the soil quality?
Absolutely. Soils. So also, there's literature now. This was really cool, and I blogged about this. This is what you saw on the blog. This I thought was very interesting. Cells actually have receptors for some of these compounds and essential oils. They actually will receive that particular essential oil and create a chemical change that will induce some kind of cell activity. So they actually act like a hormone almost, like a signaling molecule. And one of the places it works is in the skin. You have receptors in the skin that are almost like the ones in your nose, similar in conceptually anyway, and they receive the molecule and they grow, basically turning on the growth of skin for wound repair.
Wow.
Yeah, so your skin smells. Your skin has has a nasal receptor activity. It smells. Your skin smells. That is
crazy.
Right?
That is crazy.
And when I read that, I said, I got to tell people about this. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And that is another way that that's another mechanism that would substantiate the effects or the clinical, the logic to using essential oils clinically or medicinally. You can accelerate the healing process. And I've used lavender in this way. There are quite a few of them. St. John's wort, I've used St. John's wort in this way. I used to I didn't use essential oils as much as I would soak herbs in oils.
Okay.
And that's a little bit different. When you soak an herb in an oil, you get some of the essential oils for sure, but essential oils are super concentrated.
Yeah.
Mega concentrated. So there's the aromatherapy aspect, there's the antimicrobial aspect, they kill things. There's the medicinal / nutritional aspect, they have medicinal properties, nutritional properties. They're also very transdermal. They contain a class of compounds that are called terpenes.
Yeah.
These terpenes, you've heard of this? Terpenes?
Yeah.
Terpenes are like vitamin E and vitamin A are examples of terpenes. Terpenes have a really interesting chemistry. They're very long, and they conduct electrical energy very effectively, and that allows them to pull things through the skin transdermally. And so terpenes can help pull other medicines in and pull other nutritional compounds in from essential oils. So the terpene fraction in essential oils can be exploited and leveraged if you want to improve transdermal penetration of something. So if you want to improve the transdermal penetration of vitamins, mixing them with an essential oil, a terpene-rich essential oil, will improve the transdermal absorption of the vitamin A or the vitamin C. If you're making a liposome, like we talked about, how liposomes, because remember, you got to pull things through.
Right.
This is a major part of effective skincare. You don't necessarily, stratum corneum is dead here.
Yeah.
This isn't where you want to be. And this is where 99% or whatever, the vast majority of skincare works, right at this stratum corneum level.
Right.
Getting underneath it is really the holy grail of really good skincare, and essential oils can help you do that because of their transdermal properties, because of the terpene content. So, long story short, you're getting lots of value with essential oils, not to mention they smell good.
Yeah.
Okay, not to mention, just have them smell good. I had one I liked that was from a company a long time ago, and I used to smell it all the time. And I know there's a lot of companies now with some really good essential oils, and I know Longevity's got some kick-ass ones.
Yeah, they do.
Kick-ass ones, right? And as a matter of fact, for people who are doing longevity, this is another very valuable product above and beyond the nutritional products that you can use and be very confident about selling. You're going to, at the very least, sell somebody a product they're going to like to use,
right,
just because it likes to smell. Yeah, you have it around your neck and you can smell it. And just when I never thought of carrying it around my neck, but I don't think I would carry it around my neck. It looks a little silly for me, but Dr. Wallach likes it.
He does.
Dr. Wallach's got one, and but carrying around an essential oil can be nice.
Yeah.
If you have one you really like that relaxes you, just for stressful situations, just when you're in rush hour traffic, whatever. It's an indulgence. It's a little indulgence.
Lavender.
All right. I like clove and cinnamon, whatever it is.
Oh, wow.
But listen, we all have our own, right?
We do.
And it makes you feel good, right?
Right.
When you smell it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Don't underestimate what you're doing when you feel good like that. When you feel good like that, what you're doing is you're lowering your heart rate, you're improving your immune system, you're adding years to your life. You're helping digest your food, increasing absorption. You're increasing the brain, neural connections in your brain. You're doing everything good for you. So smell that stuff as often as you want,
So some people, and this is where sometimes I feel like it can be a little concerning. Some people rely on essential oils solely, not only as medicine, but as nutritional.
They're not. That's silly.
Supplements.
I hope they don't. It is what it is. You don't want to. It is what it is. It's valuable for what it is, but it isn't what it's not. And it's not a nutritional supplement.
Right.
That's not what it's for. It's medicinal. It's nourishing in the sense that it'll make you, I don't want to say nourishing, that's not the right word. It's soul nourishing maybe, in the sense that it will relax you and give you a sense of peace of mind. And it can kill things. You can use it for fungal infections. You could use it for breath. Parsley essential oil is wonderful for breath. Mm-hmm. Oregano is wonderful for breath. 1 drop in a bunch of water. Lemon, it kills things. It kills bacteria in your mouth. You can use it as an antiseptic. It does have antioxidant protection. Rosemary, for example, is used in the skincare business, for its antioxidant powers. There's a lot of benefits to using these things. It's transdermally. You can use it to drive in nutrients or drive in other things. Right. There's a lot of benefits to these things, but they're not nutritional. They're not the mighty 90 essential nutrients. No. That's not their role. That's not what they do.
So you definitely want to be taking your 90 essential nutrients, and the essential oils sort of come in as sort of not backup, but
they're extra. There's something else to do.
There's
something else to do that, yes. And at the very least, they smell great.
Yeah.
At the very least, they smell great.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's valuable. That's very, very valuable. Don't marginalize the importance of smelling great in the sense that, as we talked about earlier, there are energetics that are involved that, in my opinion, as a pharmacist, and I'm a scientist, okay? I'm not airy-fairy. I'm not that's not, I want to see things and I want a biochemical logic to things
Yeah.
that I can vouch for, that makes sense to me from a biochemistry standpoint. And that, to me, the energetic phenomena that you get with these kinds of things, subtle as they may be, are still, they're still valuable empirically, because I know they work and there's lots of literature to support that, but even more importantly, it makes sense that they would work from a scientific standpoint.
Okay, so wonderful. We also heard from you that it helps transport nutrients down deeper into
Mixing it, yes,
mixing it. So using essential oils with your beauty care, with your skin health
Here's the
care.
problem with essential oils. When you're manufacturing a product, companies, there's a couple things they do. Because they're antimicrobial and they're cytotoxic, they kill cells in high enough concentration, they can cause reactions.
Yes.
Okay, they can stimulate the immune system. They can still have an immune stimulating effect. They can cause rashes. They can cause irritation. So manufacturers don't really like using essential oils, not to mention they're expensive. And because they're active, they can destabilize formulations. So they'll much rather use perfumes than essential oils. If you're going to use an essential oil, you want to make sure you use the right amount of it, not too much, not too little. And you got to find one that you connect with, that you like,
Yeah.
That's why another reason why manufacturers don't really do them, because they're so personal. Essential oils are really personal, essential oil blends, and you'll limit your market, you'll limit your sales if you try to do an essential oil. Some people won't like the smell.
Right.
So make one for yourself. Buy an unfragranced one. Find a blend you like. We have how many? There's a whole bazillion of them.
There's tons
right?
of them.
Find a signature you like. Mix your own signature. Be
Yeah.
creative with it. That's what I always like people to do, is be creative. Make your own blends. Make ones you like that you connect with. A little of this, a little of that,
Right.
a couple of drops there, a couple of drops there. Find one you like. Put it in your skincare product.
And what you said was really important, that they're very personal. And some people who may be new to essential oils might have a few oils that tend to make them sick. And it doesn't mean essential oils are bad. It's like you
very
said.
Personal. It's very personal. Yes, it's very.
There's a handful of oils that they give me headaches.
They may give you headaches because they're so medicinal, but you don't get nauseous, do you? Do you get violently nauseous?
No, it's just they'll trigger.
They don't make you comfortable. Yeah, because they're medicinal.
Yeah.
That's the medicinal property that they have. They're so active at such tiny doses, they have a medicinal kind of effect. That's what I'm saying. They're where nutrition meets. They're in the gray area between a nutrient, which is what a flavonoid is, and a medicine, which is something that's super active in tiny, tiny amounts that's from outside your body that your body doesn't make. That's what a medicine is by definition, something from outside your body, that's not part of your body's natural chemistry, that creates some kind of large change in very small doses.
Right.
That's the definition. That's the definition of what you're getting in these therapeutic or aromatherapeutic or very tiny molecular compounds, mostly flavonoids and polyphenols, as we called them. And the polyphenols, poly means many. Trying to get my little thing. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. So polyphenols means poly, many, and phenols is a type of circle. You ever seen those rings in chemistry? They look like this. Okay, they're called ring structures. So polyphenol, that's a phenol. And so polyphenol is something that has lots of these ring structures, and things that have lots of ring structures do lots of things in the body. They conduct energy tremendously effectively, and in nature, polyphenol chemistry, especially flavonoid chemistry, is extremely, extremely powerful stuff. Extremely beneficial and powerful and effective stuff for those of us who would eat the polyphenols, that is, animals that eat the plants. Okay?
Well, so longevity, the line that we carry is Ancient Legacy. I will say that throughout the years, I've used many different essential oils, and at this point, there are very few that I would use for internal use, even to put on my skin. And Ancient Legacy is definitely way up there at the top.